Welcome to elitesgrid. So let's try solving a couple of ParaJumbles today with a really simple strategy of how to connect the dots. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to go through this ParaJumble so that we can take it out and then discuss it further. So I hope you are done reading this. So let's just start it off by discussing how exactly you're supposed to start off with this ParaJumble or any ParaJumble as of that matter. First things first, we will go through these sentences in a sequential manner unless and until you are able to spot something. So let's just look at statement 1 and let's just understand what this could potentially refer to. What files are we talking about? We don't really know what files these are. So obviously we can say that one may not be the starting sentence because we don't really know what the files really refer to. We don't really know what conservative part is. We don't really know why exactly we are asking difficult questions of the Boris Johnson government. So let's move to statement number 2. The secret deals and hidden assets of some of the world's richest and most powerful people have been revealed in the biggest trove of leaked offshore data in history. So this might help us to understand what exactly the files that is being referred in statement 1 is all about. This basically gives us a brief introduction. This basically gives us a brief idea of what exactly it is that we are reading about or talking about. So we can say that this might be a starting sentence. So we can say that potentially a starting candidate is option number 2. We will still go through the remaining sentences. They expose the secret offshore affair of 35 world leaders. Okay, we are again getting into the details, so we can probably mark it as this. This is an introduction of what we are talking about. This is the detail part, and this is also the detail part, as in what exactly is in these files. Just like statement 1, statement 3 also talks about the details of the files, as in what exactly are within these papers. Let's move to statement number 4. Branded the Pandora papers. Now understand this basic concept. 4 cannot be the starting statement because we don't really know what exactly it is that we are brandishing as the Pandora papers. So following the same logic, we can also classify this as an introductory statement, but we are also able to understand that 4th will not be the starting sentence. At the same time, we can also formulate a link that we are first introducing the entire topic, as in what exactly it is that we are talking about, what exactly it is that the ParaJumble is mentioning about or writing about, what exactly was the purpose behind writing this entire article from which this ParaJumble has been taken, and then we are adding more and more details about it. So firstly, we start off with the idea as in what it is that we're talking about, then we give more details, and then we delve into the contents of what it is that we were talking about. So we can pretty much say that 2 and 4 would be a mandatory pair or an MP because they can be put together and they will be ordered in the same sequence, 2 first, 4th later, because both of them are serving a singular purpose of introducing the subject. We first introduce that there have been some leak, and then we are also giving further details about what it is that was leaked. We are calling it Pandora papers, and what exactly it is that it was leaked. It is a data of it is 11.9 million files from a lot of different companies that normally do money laundering and other stuff, or wealthy clients or influential people. Then the details of the contents are given to us in statement 1 and statement 3. So obviously we can see that 1-3 or 3-1 should come at the later half of the ParaJumble. But how exactly do we pick between 1-3 and 3-1? That is the million-dollar question here. So let's just go through these statements one by one. The files include disclosures about major donors to the Conservative Party, raising difficult questions for Boris Johnson as his party meets for its annual conference. This makes sense. So here we might be obligated to think that if we are introducing anything about the conference, then the next sentence should have some details about the conference. Okay, but the conference part is not what we are talking about. So we can pretty much say that we would definitely need a link between the starting statements, that is 2 and 4, and before we are able to arrive at Boris Johnson government, etc., etc. Because so far we don't really know whether anything about Boris Johnson or his cabinet was really leaked within these Pandora papers. So let's move to statement number 3. They expose the secret offshore affairs, and bingo, this is exactly what we were looking for. This serves as a link between the introductory part, that is 2-4, and statement number 1, because now difficult questions will be asked of Boris Johnson. You can pretty much think of this entire ParaJumble as how you would write your experience on your CV. you first write the name of the company. You are introducing where exactly it is that you're working. So for instance, let's say you're working at TCS. Then you will highlight what exactly it is that you do. What is your designation? Let's say you are an analyst there, or let's say you are a software development engineer, an SDE. Then you will also highlight what has been the tenure, what has been the time period from which you have been working in TCS. Let's just say that you have been working from June of 19 till present. Okay, and then you will get into the details of things, as in what exactly it is that you have developed, what are the projects that you have worked on. We are working on a similar principle here. Okay, we first introduce what it is that we're talking about, which is the Pandora papers. We first introduce that there have been a leak, there have been a trove of leak. Then we explain what it is that that has exactly been leaked. Then we get into the content, what it is, what do these Pandora papers actually contain. Okay, what has been the leaks, and then we are moving from that idea to the governments, because Boris Johnson is the current Prime Minister of the UK. So obviously we will formulate a link between the leaks. We tell them that there have been a lot of world leaders here, and then we are saying that Boris Johnson is also one of them, or at least someone from his cabinet are also included within it, within these 35 people. And so there have been multiple leaks, or there could have been potential leaks about them, and so obviously there will be difficult questions that would be asked of them. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to ask Boris Johnson or his cabinet a lot of difficult questions if they are not really within the 35 people. Okay, so the official answer here would be 2-4, the introductory part, and then we formulate our link, that is statement 3, and then we arrive at 1. So you can also think of 3-1 as a secondary mandatory pair that we arrive at to solve this ParaJumble. Okay, so let's move to the next ParaJumble. This is about the recently concluded German elections. I'll just write this here. So again, I'll give you guys a 10-second pause so that you can comfortably pause this video, go through the ParaJumble, try solving it on your own, and then compare your solution with mine. So let's try to solve this. Firstly, there's just something that you need to notice here. We are talking about the Social Democratic Party as DP, and then we are talking about the SPD. So they are the same thing. That is the first thing that you need to know, and this is why GK sometimes also help you with verbal ability and ParaJumbles. Not always, but sometimes, just a stroke of luck. So SDP and SPD are basically the same thing, just how you write Social Democratic Party in Germany. That's why it is abbreviated as SPD, but they are the same thing. Now, here's a simplistic rule in ParaJumbles. In almost all the cases, if you are using an acronym to define something, the full form has to precede the abbreviation. You cannot just write SPD without actually telling the readers what SPD actually is. So we can, from this particular part alone, from this link alone, establish that 1 has to come before 2. Similarly, the same logic will also apply to the full name of Olaf Scholz and the shorter variants, Mr. Schools and Mr. Schools. So we can definitely say that 1 has to precede 2 and 3 has to precede 4 and 5. Okay, there can be other sentences between the two, but at least this was something that you should have noticed. This would have helped you eliminate a lot of possibilities, because in a 5-sentence ParaJumbles, there are 5 factorial possibilities. Just by doing this, even by noticing this small link, you would have eliminated so many of those possibilities. Okay, so let's just try to come back to the ParaJumble at hand. Less than 2 years ago, the German SPD stood at 11% in the polls, appeared to be a moribund political force. Okay, so we are saying that they were in a bad position. We'll just write it here, bad position. Sunday's knife edge federal election. So this basically hints that it was relatively more exciting. It was pretty close. It was a close election, in which SPD narrowly topped the polls with 26% of the vote, represents therefore one of the more improbable political comebacks of recent times. Now here is another thing that you always need to note in case of all verbal ability problems. Adjectives. Why exactly is the author calling this improbable? One reason is that in the last election cycle, they had 11% vote share. This time around, they have 26%. Okay, at the same time, we are also calling it a knife edge fight, federal election, knife edge fight, which means that the elections were pretty close and no one really expected this outcome. That's why it was improbable. So obviously, we need to build upon the improbable in the second half of the ParaJumble. But so far, we can say that 1 and 2 seem to be in sync. They seem to be in continuation. We first highlight what happened the last time around, and now we are highlighting what happened this time around. This also links with the rest of the passage, because we always follow a chronology. We always mention the events in the same sequence as they happened. This is 2 years ago. This is now. Okay, so obviously this is another thing that you should have noticed in order to place the SPD and SDP and Social Democratic Party abbreviation. So 1 and 2 becomes a mandatory pair. Okay, let's move to statement number 3. And we have also already established that 3 has to precede 4 and 5. But it could obviously be the case that 3 can come before 1 and 2. But then again, you notice this word also. It is also a personal vindication. And secondly, you notice it. What does it refer to? Why is there an also here? Okay, firstly, it refers to this part. It refers to the Social Democratic Party winning the election in a really thin manner via small margin. So it is that part. It is also a personal vindication that not only SPD narrowly topped the polls, it is also a vindication for the party's candidate for chancellor. Chancellor is basically the prime minister or the president of Germany. Not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but you can just think of a chancellor as the head of the government. So we are now saying that it is also a personal vindication. So we can pretty much say that now that we have already established that 4 and 5 have to come after 3, we can say that 1, 2 3 will be placed after 1 and 2, because otherwise we will not be able to understand what also and it would refer to. So we can definitely say that 1 to 3 is the correct order so far. What about 4 and 5? As the SPD bumped along in a poor third place behind the CDU, CSU and the Greens, and notice that Greens is a noun here. It is with a capital letter because Greens is the other political party except for CDU, CSU and SPD. It is another political party. So what we are saying is that it trudged behind all of these political parties. Scholl's conviction that he could still win the top job was treated as fantasy politics from the representative of the party on the road to nowhere. And this is the improbable part that we are now explaining, as in why exactly this was improbable. It was improbable because no one expected him to win. If that is the improbable part, we should now explain how exactly he won, which is explained to us in the 5th statement. But as his rivals became increasingly accident prone during the roller coaster campaign, Scholl's suggestion that he represented the safest pair of hands to take Germany beyond the Merkel era, Merkel is the current chancellor of Germany, became ever more plausible. So we built the foundation, as in there is a political party that won the election, no one expected them to win. Then we are saying that not only this party won, but it is also a personal vindication for the party's chief candidate. Then we explain why no one really expected this party to win in statement number 4, and then we explain how they were still able to win despite not being the favorites in the election. Despite them having low probability of winning the election, we are saying because the opponents have started to move up, that's why they were able to win the elections. So throughout these 2 questions, there is a common pattern that you note, is that you can easily observe some common patterns in the ParaJumble that will further help you to understand which sentence has to be placed before the other sentence. That basically helps you eliminate a lot of possibilities, which is a pretty big deal in ParaJumbles, where the probability of getting something right is extremely slim. You get 24 possibilities in a 4-sentence ParaJumble. You get 120 possibilities in a 5-sentence ParaJumble. So even if you're able to limit those possibilities by 20-30%, then that is a significant win for you. Okay, you can use mandatory pairs, you can use these common links to understand which sequences you can easily eliminate and which sequences you can build upon. I hope you guys learned something new today. We will catch you soon with a new video. Thank you.